Hello everyone, I'm Shireen Rajora and I welcome you to Exun Talks. Exun Talks are a series of interactive webinars and talks during the Exun week. These are conducted by professionals across a truly dizzying array of topics and of different types, from game development to the future in automation. With a constant interaction, it is a fantastic experience for everyone involved. Today we have with us Ayush Mahajan. Ayush Mahajan is an incoming software engineer at Google and is currently working at Girl Coded. Today he will be delivering a talk discussing computer user about cloud, its usefulness for everyday computer user, independent programmer and corporations alike, and many other interesting topics. He will also talk about the interesting engineering challenges in the field. So without further ado, here's Ayush Mahajan.
Hey, hello everyone. So I'm Ayush. Is my slide visible to everyone? Um, yeah, so it is now visible. So I am right now a software engineer at Google Cloud. So I want to tell you about Google Cloud and what is it exactly? Not and Also about why is it interesting to know about cloud and what what cool things are there that will actually create your interest for the cloud. So before starting, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I recently graduated from Mahajan Institute of Technology. I prefer being called AM, Ayush or bro. Just don't call me sir or bhaiya, please. I joined Google back in July 2021, and my focus area is cloud DNS. Personally, I'm a big Harry Potter fan and football fan. So if you have questions not regarding cloud and regarding these two, I will be happy to discuss about that in the question section. And I'm a big competitive programming fan, and I still try to do it whenever I get fans. So if any one of you is into competitive programming, I'm also happy to talk about it later on. But before we start, I want to give a disclaimer to everyone that everything discussed here is my point of view, and information provided is publicly available. So there is nothing internal that I'm going to talk about. So it's my point of view, and please don't take it as an example of something internal information that I have. Okay, so now let's get started with the cloud. Okay, so cloud computing. So it's a very confusing term. Like, what is cloud and can computers fly now? No. So what exactly is cloud? What are we going to talk about? So, and this is a question that I always had when I was in college. So everyone was talking about use cloud, try to go ahead and if something is not working on computer, cloud is a very good alternative. A cloud has a great future. But I just started using the term. I didn't know exactly what cloud is. So I know that cloud is I have examples of cloud. I can get examples of cloud, but still, when I want to talk about cloud, what exactly is it? So if someone ever tells you that it is something from where rains come from, that's true, but not when we are talking about the IT. So let's get start. So let's take a technical definition on what cloud is. Cloud actually refers to the softwares and services that run on internet, not on your computer. So it's mostly like services, yeah, the services which run on internet or not on computer. For example, uh, I think everyone of you must have heard of Google Stadia, or gamers must have heard of it, because earlier there was a problem that you need a very big configs if you want to play high-end games on your computer. But then there came a system that opportunity from Google Stadia that you can actually subscribe to the Stadia, run games there, and just use a controller over the internet to play the games. It is called streaming of the games, but it's not exactly streaming, but you get the idea. You rent something on the internet, use it how you wanted to use it instead of running locally on your computer. So let's talk about this one thing: how cloud is beneficial to you. How is it beneficial to everyone? Because if we're talking about cloud, we should know why is it beneficial. Why are we even talking about it? So cloud is a really great concept. Like I told you about Stadia, you don't need anything else other than a browser and internet connection. And people are getting better and better internet connection day by day. There's a competition in the market where they have to provide you better internet services. So and even you are getting it after Geo. I think there is everyone have a very good internet connection and access to internet. So you are actually moving towards an era where you are actually now more happy to use apps on the internet rather than downloading it yourself. For example, if I have to give you example, the slide that I'm sharing with you is a Google slide. Earlier in school or before that, I used to use Microsoft presentations. That's the term for it, right? So I used to use them, and there are many issues with them, like collaborating with people and everything. But it is a very good alternative that we have moved forward to. So it is one of the examples, like it is getting your it is getting your cost cheaper and everything. So that's why cloud is very beneficial to almost everyone. It may be a daily average user who's not into programming and stuff. It may be an independent programmer who is actually programming daily and uh, want their services to reach people. It can be big corporations like uh, Correct. It can be like PayPal. Anyone can use cloud. And I will be telling you for the next few examples of how cloud is beneficial to each one of them. So let's talk about a daily user. Like I told you about Google Slides that I'm using right now, it's actually easier. So Google earlier we used to use Google, Microsoft Office or LibreOffice, that is the open source version of it. So earlier we used to use that, but there are many challenges in that. Like if you're still using it, you know that you have to store multiple files. Multiple files if you want to store multiple versions. For example, let's say you just wrote the first paragraph and then you start writing the second paragraph, but you just want you know that you are going to make edits in the first paragraph and you're writing the second paragraph. So you make store your first paragraph in some other file. So you are kind of creating versioning for it, and you are actually storing different files for it. After that, if you want someone else to collaborate in it, or you want to share that file with someone else, what we generally were doing, what we were sending, giving it in the pen drive or CD, or actually mailing it to someone else. So you get the point, right? You mail it, then they make their changes, then they mail it back to you. It's not a very good way of doing it. Earlier, it was the only way to do it. And of course, the one very popular thing that will always be a challenge in the cloud is backups and hard drive failures. What will you do if you don't have backup and your hard drive fails? So let's talk about a solution that cloud has provided. Google Workspace is a very good example for it. Like I am using slides right now for this presentation. I use Doc daily and I use my, Google Spreadsheet daily. So it automatically creates versions. Like if you go into versions, you can check out that who edited the file, what edit was made when. So it has its own version control, which is a very good feature. If you want to ever go back to the previous version because you have just ruined your file or presentation. Again, sharing is simple. I can just share the link. I can add collaborators for it. And we can work simultaneously on the application. We don't need to share it. Don't need to get blocked on the presentation because we are waiting. Someone else will share the slides. And again, it it is hosted on the Google servers itself. So you don't have to worry if hard drives fail. They are already working on what they will do if hard drive fails. So they already have your multiple copies. That is something you don't have to worry about, which is the worry of the service provider, not yours. And another example, it is a very common example. This happened with a lot of my friends. So what used to happen is they used to buy one external hard drive, and after taking photos for any event or vacation, they used to just transfer their photos to that hard drive. So there, I have met people who actually had their whole lifelong photos in a hard drive, and the hard drive got corrupted, and they were just running to shops which could retrieve the data back because it's your whole life photos there, so they wanted the data back at any cost. That is something which has been changed. Google Drive is a very common example for that. Most of you must be using Dropbox, or iPhone users or Apple users must be using iCloud. That is a very common example. You don't have to worry what will happen if your phone is lost. You don't have to worry what if your data is corrupted. That's how cloud is very useful to every daily user. and you just need internet connection. Like you have data on your computer, just upload it to the drive, and you can use another computer or another device, and you can just access the data again. So that's the power of the cloud that you have there. Now I want to dive into how it is useful for an independent programmer, and that is from the personal experience, because once I tried hosting a website on my local computer and not on cloud, and this was the result. Because it is actually complicated. Okay, it's not that easy. Let me tell you what you need to do if you just want to host a simple website from your own computer. You have to actually build up a firewall. You have to then talk to your ISP provider for a static IP, and without static IP, you cannot do that. So I'm sorry, I'm getting a little technical here, but it's actually tough. Like what I'm trying to say, it's actually kind of tough to just host a normal website if you just want to do it from your computer. So, and the point is it even worth the trouble? Is it worth the trouble to learn all these things just because you want to host a website in which you click a button and they say, yeah, you're awesome? There is no point in doing that, right? You just want to focus on your work, not on how to actually host it all. Because if you're always focusing on how to host it, then you will be focusing on how to host it. You won't be focusing on your app. So that's why hosting cloud has provided a very cool option for hosting for independent programmers. For example, Google Firebase is there, Heroku is there. These are very common tools that you can use as a independent programmer if you ever want to host your IPs. Of course, if you want to host locally, then you have to buy infrastructure, which will cost you a lot, which is not really worth it. And if you ever want to try it yourself, but it's actually annoying to host locally if you have no reason to do that. And of course, the main cloud, the corporations. So, like I told you, there is a huge initial cost of infrastructure. Then you actually need to learn a lot about how to host it locally. And there is a and when it comes to huge corporation, then firewall is not the only thing. There are too many security things. So network security, security dedicated teams. Too many things is required to be there. So if you're a huge corporation, for example, let's say PayPal, then you don't want to invest on teams for that. You want to pay people and ask them to develop your application, and you're okay if someone is providing you that service as a third party, you will host there, and it's cool. You just host there. If there is any problem with the network, you just go call them, and that company is already paying engineers for that, and that's how the cloud works. You provide a service, infrastructure service or a platform service, and people can use that. Corporations can use that. They don't have to buy extremely big teams for hosting their infrastructure. So that's how corporations are working on it. So let's talk about this thing, that what exactly cloud services are available there, because this will help us to get an understanding of why cloud is a very big thing. Like you may be thinking that the corporations being there, like providing infrastructure to the corporations is the biggest thing in the cloud, but actually not. Everything is big thing in cloud, because when I talk to you about daily users, so corporations can be in thousands, hundred of thousands, but when it comes to users, they're in billions. So providing services to the users is also as big as providing services to the corporation, because user might not be spending as much as the corporation on this, but still the volume of the users using the apps can actually make a very big difference. So, and of course, independent programmers, they are also very important. Independent programmers are actually where the corporation starts from. So if I'm comfortable with one service, then if I'm working on a corporation and if I have a choice to get started with a new project, I will actually try to choose the platform that I'm comfortable with. So that is also a very important thing. And there are really many independent programmers who can also make a difference when it comes to the revenue generation for the cloud services. So there are actually three broad services that are provided. That is SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. Software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. There are all other services as well, like backend as a service and everything as a service. But if you just want to classify them into these three, you can do it. So I'm not going to talk about them here. So let me explain to you about all these three services in layman terms first. So let's say you pizza as a service. You want to get a pizza. Okay, so the traditional approach is that you do everything at home, from buying cheese, toppings, pizza dough, arranging fire, oven, gas, drinks, and dining table, everything. You are responsible for everything, and that is really hectic. But still, you have free choice. You can do anything that you want. It's you are the owner. You don't want to use maida for the dough. You can use whole wheat dough. You can use anything. It's your choice. You're not suitable with one cheese. You can use another. But when you are provided with infrastructure as a service, then it's like you buy the dough and everything from the bakery. You need an oven at the home. You start it. You put it in the oven. You get drinks. You put it on dining table and eat it. So basic infrastructure is provided to you, but still you have to do the work. When I'm talking about platform as a service, it's like you are ordering in your home. You just call them and say that I need this. They will deliver it to your home. You're not responsible for anything. You just need eating table and drinks at your home. Get it and eat it. And when you are using software as a service, you are dining out. You are just going to the restaurant. You're saying I need this pizza. They will give you dining table. They will give you drinks. Eat it and leave it. Leave from there. You are not responsible for anything. You don't need to buy a new table if the table is broken. You drink. So I think you get the point. Like how different services is actually useful at different levels. Like you get from as you move from SaaS to PaaS to IaaS to traditional approaches, you get more flexibility, but there is more responsibility. So it's always about how much responsibility do you want to take, and is it even useful to take them? So now let's get into some technical terms. Software as a service. So what exactly is it? So software as a service, for example, it is the drive, it is Google Workspace, it is Google Slides. What happens is you just go on the service. You don't have to worry how you're storing data. You don't have to worry how um, you don't have to worry about anything. Backups, version controls. You don't have to worry about anything. Just write it there, share it. You don't have to even worry about implementing that whether you are sharing within groups or not. Every functionality is written by the provider of the services, and you just have to use the service. You're not worried about anything. It's just that you just don't share it among the people you don't want to share it with. So that is good for the software as a service. And but why will we use it? And who is it for? Like it is for general public. Like I told you, every one of us is using Google Sites or Google Docs. It is for independent programmers. For example, Git is a very good example. GitHub, sorry, not Git. GitHub is a very good example for independent programmers if you want to go into that. And for the big corporations, like big corporations, as I told you, there is always some responsibility you have to take it. But why will you take responsibility of something that is not even your product? Like for example, if you have employees and you want a platform where your employees can actually upload the reimbursement bills, so you don't want to build that because that is huge work and it has already been built, and it's not your product. You don't want your engineers to spend time on that. Maybe you want it, but if it is too critical, but generally you don't want. And there is a very common example that SAP Concur is used for this. So that's the point where SaaS is actually used everywhere. So anyone can use SAP. Sorry, SAP is the company name I was talking about. Yeah, these are the examples I just talked about that you can use as a SaaS. So on to the next thing, platform as a service. I'm just going in that trend where responsibility is increasing, but you have more flexibility. So platform as a service gives you more flexibility on how you can do stuff. So here you don't have the application itself. You get the platform. You have to build the application yourself and you have to deploy it. For if you want to read the definition, here is the definition available for you. That it delivers a framework on which developers can build and create customized applications. So I told you the example of Heroku earlier. Uh, who is it beneficial for you? Sorry, I missed that. Yeah. So who is it beneficial for you? So it's like again, the cloud is beneficial to all, but it's generally beneficial to again corporations and independent programmers who don't want to invest too much in the infrastructure, and they just want to deploy their application and tell people start using it. They don't want to ask, they don't want to set up they don't want to set up everything. Like there are too many things. If you are deploying on a big infrastructure, there is not just deploying application. There is actually too many things like setting security protocols. Firewall is included in that. You need to set up DNS records for it. Maybe its own choice. Like, but still, you get the point. Deploy and you are done with it, and you don't have to do anything else. So that's it. As I told you, the example, Google App Engine in GCP, Heroku, which is actually free, you can use it, and AWS Elastic Beanstalk. I have not used that one, but I've heard about it. So now the big one, infrastructure as a service, and it is where the big corporations are actually very much interested in cloud, because as I told you, if you have a big corporation and you want to get started with um, deploying your code, but you also need different security levels. There are internal application, there are multiple services running. You don't want to buy whole warehouses where you're storing data. You don't want a team which manages them. You don't want a team which is actually responsibly setting up it across the world. You don't want a team which is after that making sure it is actually making backups so that if one failure is there, there is another one available. And even on top of that, there is too much government interactions because you are buying a property, to you are employing people to work in the warehouses. These are the top examples I can think of in mind. But if you have to get started with this infrastructure, it is way too much work, really. So that's why generally companies go with big providers. So you get storages, servers, networks, basically every infrastructure in this. So it's just like instead of on-premise, you are actually asking a company to have it on-premise for you and get started with. It is for the big corporations. Infrastructure, you can get started for it even as an independent programmer, but it's not worth it because it's too much work. Again, more flexibility, more responsibility, not worth taking as an independent programmer. You can take it, but not worth it from my point of view. Examples, Google Compute Engine, Cloud DNS, Cloud Spanner. These are actually services. Independently, you can call them PaaS, but together they become IaaS. AWS EC2, RDS, SQS. These are AWS services, which independently are PaaS, but together they are infrastructure. Again, and DigitalOcean. So I don't know examples for that. I have not never used that much. Sorry for that. So if I just have to sum it up, on-prem is do it all. ISS is cook it, serve it, and enjoy. PaaS is serve it and enjoy. SaaS is you are served and please just enjoy the food. Okay. So the big topic, yeah, the cloud wars. That is very interesting. So like we have talked some theory here. Now, where does it lead? The current society. There is a cloud war going on. This is not my word. This is very common term that is used. And the question is, why is it cloud war? Cloud war is actually, but let's first go into what cloud war is actually a term which we use for the market battle between Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and IBM. There are other companies as well, because other than these, there is a 40 to 45% share which other companies hold. So we need to account them in the cloud war. But these are the three big companies: Google, Amazon, Microsoft, which are competing for the public cloud market share. And now the question is really there, that why is it even a war? Uh, because cloud has a really big potential, and it's not even a potential now, it's actually generating big money. So I didn't get I cannot share internal revenue, of course, and I didn't get Indian market cloud marketing revenue. But this is from 2017 to 2028 expected North American cloud computing market revenue. If you are in 11th and you are studying mathematics, I think you can get it that this is actually a parabola. It is increasing exponentially. So that actually gives a big idea on how this cloud is increasing. For example, in 2019, it is $69 billion. In 2020, it was $78 billion. It's increasing like one, it increased one sixth in 1 year. That is a big thing. So that, so, sorry, not one sixth, one tenth, about one tenth. So yeah, so cloud is a big thing. Cloud has a huge potential for the future. And when it comes to market share, right? Amazon started in 2008. That it holds biggest market share right now. But other companies that are competing with it, they are just not going to accept it. They want a bigger market share because cloud is increasing. As I told you, there are more and more services that is being there, and everyone needs those services. Okay, so this is the current market share that is being held, but this is an old statistic. The new statistic is actually dynamically changing. Every company is trying to get a better and market share. And it is a very interesting time because every company is trying to bring more and more things to give them an edge in the cloud market. So it's really cool time to follow cloud companies or the cloud products. Yeah, that's me because GCP owns 6% and I work there. So also. Okay, so the question is, why is it even growing? Like there is limited number of people, and even if population is growing exponentially, not exponentially but rapidly, uh, even then there are newborns. Like why is even internet even growing that much? Because there are more services coming on internet daily. You're using more internet day by day, and as you're using more internet day by day, you are increasing data usage. As you are increasing data usage, demand increases. As demand increases, the processing of this data needs to be the data generated needs to be processed faster, and you get that. It's a vicious cycle. The more people use internet, the more demand grows. So, and more demand grows, it is hard for the individual company to host their own infrastructure. And of course, for example, let's say games, as the games are becoming better and better, you need a more expensive PC. And as you need more expensive PC, you will prefer to subscribe to some services where you can stream games. Like I talked about Stadia in the starting. So I wanted to give you an idea on the growth of the data. So the first line that I have is that the amount of data in the world was estimated to be 44 zettabytes at the dawn of 2020. And honestly, I don't even know how much is the zettabyte. I know the terabyte is there. After that, I think there is a petabyte, but I don't know. I think it's petabyte, then exabyte, then zettabyte, and 44 zettabytes of data. That's a huge number. And second point is that by 2025, data generated each day is expected to reach 463 exabytes. That means in 100 days, in 10 days, we will have 4 zettabytes, and in the 100 days, we will have 46 zettabytes. So all the data we generated till 2020, we will be generating it in 3 months or 4 months in one quarter of the year. So 50 years of data, 3 months of a data, are equal. So that's really interesting, and this is a huge demand for data storage, data processing, data visualization, and everyone would actually prefer to get services which are hosted on premium hardware instead of buying the premium hardware themselves because you have to keep replacing the hardware. Cloud is a very good alternative when it comes to that. So yeah, my mind was also blown when I read the stats. So again, I talked about this already. That what does this signify? Okay, you need better managed servers, you need better machines to process data, better machines to store data, better and there is a ongoing demand for research to store it better, to store it efficiently. If you just go by the trend of how much YouTube is storing data daily, you will it gets confusing. How are they even storing that much data? What are they doing? Plugging in more hard drives? Like I don't know what are they doing. It's just a question that is a really big question. Now, Google is actually hosting their own infrastructure, but if some other service is there, which is equivalent to YouTube and getting data, or even at a fraction rate, then that it is really expensive to actually hold that. That's why cloud is very important here. Google has its own cloud. They are handling YouTube very well with that. But what if you don't have your own infrastructure? You can't hold it with that. You need team of experts to handle that. So that's what I wanted to tell you. I wanted to give a perspective from my point of view about cloud. I hope it was interesting for you guys. So do you have any questions? Okay. Um, I'm in the comments. Okay, so I don't see anyone having any question. Okay, guys, so that's from me. Bye.
I think we can move on to questions now. If there are some, then I believe all the viewers can drop in the question in the chat.
How long would it take to set up a cloud infrastructure on a small scale? What small scale? Like you just want to host a website, so it won't take too long. Just first you need to read terms and conditions of your ISP. Then you need to ask them. First of all, you need to study everything and how to set it up. So that is I'm estimating that 2 to 3 years of study. That's cool. After that, you will be needing to contact your ISP for that on how you need to get a static IP for it. It will be it will take too much time. Like on a small scale, if you have really good experienced engineers, then maybe 1 month, 2 months. But if you're trying to do it yourself, I don't know. I never tried that. It can take months, it can take days, but it's huge pain to do it. Is there a way to where cloud storage server can break down? Yeah, of course it can break down. That is a very common issue that is going in the cloud war. That services are breaking down and companies are trying to go for hybrid models. Like they want to host on different services. If servers break down, you get the point. Like there is too much data being generated, there is too much usage being done. So breaking down of a service is very common. E- Even if you don't go into hybrid model, this is something that is done on the back end because hard drive will fail. That is a very common thing we generally assume when it comes to cloud, and that's why there are multiple copies running. There are algorithms and research done on this on how you can do it, and not cloud storage server. Even you know, if you are managing a local server for the let's say local network, even then it is said that you should actually use some technology like RAID or something to make copies of that. So it is very normal thing if it breaks. So yeah, but you won't experience it because it is something that is being handled on the back end. Yeah, but generally people are facing the issues in that direction, and it is happening that services are getting down. Facebook was down back then a few days back. They have their own infrastructure. Uh, their issue was that no, I don't want to go into their issue, but still, uh, AWS was down a few days back. So these things happen. Things break down. Is cloud computing going to become cheaper in near future? I guess so. Uh, it should become cheap in the near future because as more people are going to use it, things generally do get cheaper. The 1 GB pen drive used to be costly back then, but now even one TB is not does not seem to be that expensive. Of course, there's an inflation, and that's why we seem that it is all expensive. But still, actually, I think things are getting cheaper regularly, and I expect it to get cheaper in the future. No, my point of view, I don't know anything internally. Please don't go and say anything about that. So, next question: what is the difference between mobile computing and cloud computing? Mobile computing. I don't know. Seriously, sorry. Uh, you can message me on LinkedIn. I can research on this, but I really don't know what mobile computing is exactly. Cloud computing is available on mobile. You can term it as mobile computing, but still, cloud is something that is run on internet. So I'm sorry, I don't know about that. So large scale cloud computing. Okay, large scale cloud computing there. Well, I will promote GCP here, but AWS is also there. Azure is there. Big, there are big corporations which are using these. Uh, PayPal uses this. Cred uses this. Sorry, Cred uses AWS. My bad. There are many companies which uses these things. I think Dropbox uses AWS. So these are the companies which are providing the services and large the ACP GCP, AWS and Azure. These are big platforms where you can host your large infrastructure. I told you about IaaS, right? So that is where when large cloud computing come into effect, the companies are hosting their servers there, and they are really, really huge. And imagine that many big companies are hosting their infrastructure in one company, so it get really, really huge. So the IaaS is really very large. So if you want to go into really large cloud computing, GCP, Azure, or AWS is an option. GCP. Next question. Native distributed computing. Oh man, what a term. Native. Guys, I don't know these terms. Why you study way too much. What's the difference between native distributed computing and cloud computing? Native distributed computing, like I let me say what I think this is. I don't know for sure if I'm going wrong about this. Please do tell me. Native, like local distributed, like you mean local distributed computing and cloud computing. Again, I think local and cloud is the difference. Cloud is also distributed, like on the back end. You actually have multiple servers. So distributed cloud is also distributed. And the difference is just I think cloud and native here. I'm sorry, I don't know this term. When you upload something to the cloud to save space and servers. Yeah, it generally does. I'm not even saying it. It should get, like I'm not saying it from something I know internally. It's something if you have, mm, because it makes sense, right? If you have something in the background, and not using it, isn't it better to just compress it and compress it in a way that you can decompress it and use it again as you like. So your cost gets reduced. Like if I am leading any service like that, I would actually prefer going this way. Of course, it won't be simple just saying this way, but I think that this makes sense. That they will try to compress data if you are storing on it, and there is no harm in compressing data. So I think it should be getting compressed. Yeah. So is that it? Okay. Cool guys. Cool questions.
Yeah, I believe if there are any questions, then I believe we can go ahead with ending the session. Thank you so much for such an amazing talk, Ayush. I hope everyone who's watching the session enjoyed it. And stay tuned for more amazing stuff. See you at the next section talk. Thank you so much,
Cool.
Ayush.
Thanks for having me.